Hello everyone, welcome to Film Explained. In this episode, I will be discussing the 2011 film Source Code, which falls under the genres of action, drama, and mystery. Please be aware that spoilers will be revealed throughout the recap, so proceed with caution. The story begins with a train en route to Chicago. We meet Captain Colter Stevens, an army pilot who suddenly wakes up on the train, disoriented and unsure of his whereabouts. As he tries to make sense of his surroundings, a woman named Christina approaches him and addresses him as Sean. Despite her attempts to assist him, Colter remains distracted and fails to respond when the conductor asks for his ticket. Christina grows increasingly concerned by Colter's erratic behavior and tries to understand what's going on. However, Colter is unable to provide any answers and admits that he doesn't even recognize her. After standing up and briefly stepping outside, Colter returns to his seat beside Christina on the train. However, his attention is diverted once again when he catches a glimpse of his reflection in the window, and it's not his own face staring back at him. Feeling increasingly bewildered, Colter retreats to the train's restroom, where he examines himself in the mirror and discovers that he's taken on the appearance of a different man. To make matters even more perplexing, he finds the stranger's wallet in his pocket. When Colter emerges from the restroom, Christina is waiting for him. He confesses that he has no recollection of either Sean or herself. Without warning, the train explodes. Colter regains consciousness in an unfamiliar setting and hears a woman's voice inquiring about his functionality. Confused and disoriented, he's unable to answer any of the disembodied voice's questions. All the voice wants to know is what happened on the train and what caused the explosion. Curious about the woman's identity, Colter queries her. In response, she appears on a screen in front of him and informs him that he already knows who she is. She explains that they will be restoring his memory pattern and initiates a mnemonic procedure. As the woman recites a passage and corresponding visuals appear on the screen, Colter becomes increasingly restless and attempts to extricate himself from his seat. Despite his lack of focus, Colter begins to recollect fragments of the exercise and repeats back what he remembers. When the woman asks for her name, Colter identifies her as Goodwin. For a brief moment, Dr. Rutledge makes an appearance on the monitor, but Colter promptly requests to speak with his father. However, Goodwin interrupts him and persists in questioning him about the train explosion. Goodwin dismisses Colter's concern about Christina's use of a different name, insisting that it's irrelevant. When Colter admits that he doesn't know who caused the train explosion, Goodwin informs him that he will be sent back onto the train for another 8 minutes. Although Colter suspects that he may be participating in a simulation, Goodwin refuses to provide any information about his situation and urges him to gather more intel on the train. As she puts it, "Find the bomb, and you find the bomber." Colter returns to the train and engages in a conversation with Christina, who shares her plans to take the LSAT after quitting her job. Suddenly, a woman opens a soda can and spills coffee on Colter's shoe. Despite the familiar surroundings, Colter senses that something is different about this experience. Christina interprets his observation as a profound statement, and Colter sets a timer on his watch, convinced that he may still be in a simulation due to the vivid realism of his surroundings. Colter is on a mission to find the bomber and searches for any suspicious behavior on the train. He strikes up a conversation with a comedian and a student who returns a wallet to someone. Colter realizes that the explosion came from behind him and discovers the bomb in the toilet's vent. He talks to Goodwin and leaves the bomb untouched to devise a plan to find the bomber. Colter pretends to be a transit security officer and orders everyone to turn off their electronic devices. When a man ignores him, Colter closes his laptop and punches him in the face. Colter receives instructions from Goodwin to stabilize his pulse, as he is back in his virtual reality world. She queries him about his findings of the bomb and Colter confirms that he found it, but insists on talking to Dr. Rutledge, who he recognizes as his commanding officer. Goodwin tells him that he has been away for 2 months, while Colter insists that he was in Afghanistan just 2 days before. Confused and disoriented, Colter is not sure if he is in a simulation or not. Goodwin informs him that real lives are at stake and urges him to continue with the mission. However, before proceeding, Colter demands to know more. Goodwin speaks to Dr. Rutledge, seeking his approval to disclose the information to Colter. Upon receiving confirmation, Goodwin informs Colter that the train he was on had exploded that morning and that more such attacks are planned. The person that Colter is inhabiting was named Sean Fentress and was a passenger on the train. Goodwin is trying to extract more information from Colter, who reports where he found the bomb and what kind of detonator was used. Goodwin reveals that the bomber intended to cause more destruction by targeting a passing freight train. She urges Colter to focus only on her given tasks and sends him back to the train. Upon waking up, Colter realizes that Christina and other passengers are real people. He asks the conductor about the passengers' behavior and instructs Christina to play a game with him to identify any suspicious persons. The atmosphere is relaxed as Christina and Colter chat on the train. They discuss the people in the car, and she jokes about his familiarity with them. Colter notices a man exiting the bathroom, and Christina playfully suggests that they might be racially profiling. He looks through Sean's possessions but finds nothing useful, except her name in his notebook. Colter decides to follow the man he saw earlier, and he tells Christina to stay outside. In the bathroom, he hears the man being sick in a stall and inspects him, which makes the man uncomfortable. Colter exits with the man following behind. Colter approaches the man sitting on the bench and asks to borrow his phone. The man refuses and leaves, but Colter attacks him and demands to see his phone. The bomb explodes, and Colter suspects that the man is the bomber. He chases after him, and the man pushes him onto the tracks, where he's hit by a bus. Colter wakes up in a different place, unable to hear Beleaguered Castle or Goodwin. He feels extremely cold, and the environment begins to shut down. Goodwin's colleague informs her that Colter is in trouble, and they consult Rutledge, who suggests that they continue sending signals to him to see if he responds. Rutledge notes that no one has ever been in a situation like this before. As Rutledge leaves, Colter discovers a toolkit and restores the power in the room. As the system reboots, he hears distorted voices and recognizes Rutledge's voice reading a passage. Colter calls out to her, and Rutledge confirms that she is the inventor of the system and is in charge. However, Goodwin interrupts their conversation, informing Colter that saving the train's passengers is not his mission. Colter argues that he saved a passenger on the train, but Rutledge explains that she only survived in the source code, which is more like time reassignment than time travel. Colter asks for an explanation, and Rutledge simplifies it for him. Goodwin looks up the name of the passenger Colter claimed to save, but finds out that Christina had died that morning. Despite his confusion, they need to send Colter back because there is a second suspected attack in the center of Chicago, and the city is being evacuated due to the possibility of a dirty bomb. The military believes that discovering the culprit of the train bombing could prevent a second attack. Goodwin informs Colter of a gun's location on the train and authorizes him to use it. Colter is disheartened to find Christina on the train again and realizes his feelings for her. Despite this, he searches for the gun and is caught by the conductor, who is then killed. Colter wakes up again and asks Christina what she would do if she only had 1 minute left to live. He confesses that he would apologize to his father. Christina assures Colter that everything will be alright, but the bomb detonates once more. Before Colter wakes up again, he has strange visions about Christina. He tells Goodwin that the gun wasn't a good idea and asks to speak with his dad. Goodwin dismisses his request and shows him where he's being kept. She tells him that the source code specifications are narrow and sends him back to search through the passengers' things. Colter returns to the train and quickly draws the military patch Goodwin showed him. He becomes suspicious of a man talking on the phone, searches his bag, and notices a woman with a bag from an Army medical center. Colter calls Nellis Air Force Base and asks for Rutledge. Christina finds him and informs him that his friend is dead. Colter recalls memories from Afghanistan and hears Goodwin's voice, leading him through mnemonic exercises. When he wakes up, he asks Goodwin if he's dead. Colter shares with Goodwin that he found an online article saying he was dead and that his father received a medal for him, but Goodwin tells him to focus on the mission and reveals that part of his brain is still active while his body is a manifestation. When Colter questions the source code, Rutledge intervenes and explains that the project was sanctioned by a military court and many soldiers would love the opportunity to continue serving their country. Colter argues that for many soldiers, one death is enough service, but Rutledge promises to let him die if he completes the mission. Rutledge sends Colter back on the train repeatedly until he finds the bomber, manipulating him into doing what he needs him to do. After playing a recording of his father's interview, in which he expresses regret for their lack of understanding, Colter insists that Rutledge sends him back to the train. Once there, he immediately goes for the gun and bomb, removing the detonator phone from the explosive. He calls the only number in the phone's log and speaks to a man, who Colter realizes is Frost. Frost claims he was talking to his wife and apologizes, but Colter becomes suspicious and follows him off the train. He sees Frost putting his wallet back on the train and jumps off to pursue him. Colter approaches Derek in a white van and shows him the phone. Derek denies knowing anything, but Colter reveals the second bomb and demands to know where Derek's next target is. Catherine arrives and Derek shoots them both. Derek explains his belief that the world is hell and needs to be destroyed for it to be rebuilt. He leaves in the van and the train bomb explodes. Colter reports his findings to Goodwin and Rutledge before requesting to go back to save the people on the train. Meanwhile, Derek is arrested before he can detonate the second bomb. Goodwin tells Colter that he cannot alter the past, but he insists there was a failsafe he missed. Colter persuades her to send him back to save Christina, promising to save the world. Back on the train, Colter stops Derek from leaving and calls the police to report him and the radioactive bomb. Colter sends an email to Goodwin and calls his dad to apologize. Goodwin switches off his life support, and Colter dies. The explosion does not happen, and Colter takes a walk with Christina. He realizes that the visions he saw were of this moment. Please like, subscribe, and share our channel for more amazing content.